Hello, everybody. Okay, you can hear well my voice. Welcome to our session. Next 60 minutes to talk about scaling sustainability in space economy. We have different angles to go through, and my biggest pleasure today is to have Isabella from European Commission as our keynote speaker. Welcome. Applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm Isabella Poldrugo. I'm head of unit of space policy in DG Defis for space policy and the defense industry in the European Commission. And indeed, I'm very glad to speak today on the, sustainability in space, through space, and for space. Indeed, it's a very broad dimension that we can tackle when we think about sustainability and space. The first is obviously how space-based data and services can support the sustainability of our planet. The European Union is investing since decades in having state-of-the-art space infrastructure that are producing state-of-the-art space data. They are tailor-made, and there is a continuous effort to have data and services that are reflecting the evolving user needs. There are regular platform and data and occasion to really produce what is needed. So at this moment, we have the infrastructure, we have the data. What we need to do is also boost the use of this data, so support the downstream and the user uptake of the space data. We develop already a lot of services for different areas, and we are really helping and promoting different services. What are the challenges ahead? Continue investing in infrastructure. So obviously the needs and the technology is evolving. So we really need to have all the time state-of-the-art infrastructure in what we are doing today and what we are looking ahead for the future. But obviously we are to focus more and more of the use and the uptake of the space data. This can be done at different levels. The Commission, always what we do is always make sure that the use of new space-based data is part of the many legislation that's produced every year. There are different examples. The recently discussed regulation for critical raw material is mentioning the use of Copernicus to a sustainable mining, for example. The Net Zero Industry Act is also supporting companies to use the space data to monitor the emission they have, so as to make the industry more sustainable using space. But also, obviously, we have many other examples, as the European Union Forest Strategy or the European Union regulation for deforestation and deforestation-free supply chain. So examples are very numerous. But obviously, we have our agency, the EUSPA, that is supporting the uptake of data with 17 different ecosystems from forestry, transport, energy, to make the best use of data. Then after we have the public authorities. Before we were speaking with Latitudo 40 and Serco that we are speaking later today. So how public authorities at all the layers, from the Commission to national authorities, regional authorities, municipalities, can really better their policy and the monitoring of their policy through space. And finally, there's the private sector. So the developers, so commercial activities that use space data to develop applications, the monitoring, as I was mentioning before, how companies can use space data to better the performance of their own companies, and obviously the final users that are not always aware of what and how much they use space data in their daily activities. And the Commission, we also develop Copernicus thematic hub to help, in particular, the public sector to use space data. The thematic hub, for example, on health, on energy, on coastal areas, on Arctic, to cluster different services using space data. This is a huge effort. And finally, the Commission is now working on a strategy on space data economy. Second point is sustainability of space activities. So we have very nice EU space data and information. They can help and support the sustainability of our planet and our companies, but we need to be also sustainability ourselves. So how to make EU space infrastructure more sustainable, how to make the production more sustainable, and how to make space more sustainable. So there are different activities. The first, obviously, how to have a lower footprint of space production. And on this, there is different activities. As maybe you know, we are finalizing the presentation of the EU space law. Sustainability, safety, and resilience are the three main elements at the core of this new regulation. We are developing a life cycle assessment to see where the space industry is, and also how to develop a methodology to assess the greening and the more sustainability of the industry. And obviously, we have to work more and more on sustainability in space. Aurora will speak later today. We discussed before the increasing of space activities, so the increase of our satellites, of debris that makes space less and less sustainable. We have to be sure that our investment in space are not destroyed by debris or other satellites or collision. So this is a huge new investments and not only on policy and on technology we need. Space traffic management. There was a communication from the Commission and the External Service published 1 year ago. There was a space strategy for security and defense. We have already some activities as space surveillance and tracking, but more and more is needed in this domain to be sure that our space activities are sustainable and safe. And my last point is about sustainable space economy. Not only because it's a title and what this Timo is doing, but also, as I mentioned before, we need to have a more sustainable space economy. We need to have more access to finance. I was speaking with many of you. What is needed today is more finance, but also more sustainable finance. As maybe you know, we have a taxonomy regulation in Europe, who is trying to converge and attract private funding in sustainable activities. Space at the moment is not yet there, but we are working for it. Both downstream activities, that is at the moment more easy. So I was saying before how companies can demonstrate to be sustainable thanks to space data, but also how to make the space sector more sustainable. And I was mentioning before what we need now is a methodology, because what we lack is how to demonstrate that the space industry can go greener and can go to be more sustainable. So we are working to it. It's a very long process because the regulation is done that to develop new sectors require at least a couple of years, but there is a big effort to go in this direction. This will have a win-win situation because we give space industry more access to finance, but also will push them to be more sustainable. A lot of investment is needed in this domain. When I speak most of the time with space industry, they always try to say, but it is true, space is a very different domain. It's not a car. I mean, you have meteor condition, you have a temperature condition that are not the same as on Earth. But there is an effort to identify new technologies, new material, new ideas to go more and more sustainable. What is also missing is skills. We have very good aerospace engineers. We have very good engineers in the sustainable domain. But what is lacking at the moment is have a combination of the two. So skills is also key to be more sustainable and green. In conclusion, as you can see, space is sustainable and contributes to sustainability. But more has to be done. I was mentioning before, first of all, I have to be sustainable space sector. Together with the EU space law, we're developing the new methodology. The Commission will publish this year also the transition pathway for the space and aerospace and defense ecosystem. The transition pathway is a document there is a lot of policy, but also a lot of actions to go towards the green, digital, and resilience transition. And it's a co-creation process. It's not only the Commission, the EU telling the industry what they have to do. It's a document created with the industry and with the member state, because in the list of actions, there is action to be done to all the actors on different layers. What industry can do themselves without the help of anyone. What industry can do or member state can do in these three dimensions, so the green, digital, and resilience. And where indeed there is the need to have a higher level at the European level to push towards the three transitions. Then there was the part on sustainable space economy. As we were mentioning before, taxonomy is one of the challenges, but access to finance in general, how to help companies to go greener, to be more green, to have this green mentality. And the third, the first one I mentioned today, is the sustainability through space activities. So to continue investing in state-of-the-art infrastructure and space data service, but also to use them and to use them in all the dimensions at the European, national, and really local level. And indeed, we are developing now a new strategy for a better use of space data. And I think that today we were listening to different experiences from really developer of application, developer of technologies, and developer of services. And I'm very glad to have the pleasure to have the introduction speech, and I leave the floor to the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isabella. Great pleasure to have you here today, and like everybody else listening to us. So let me repeat and continue my talk. So my name is Timo Mustonen. I'm founder of Space Economy, hosting the Sustainability Pavilion together with Frost Sullivan today at Paris Space Week. Talking about scaling sustainability in space economy, that's today's topic, how to make things scaled. Space is very much unknown. Surprise, surprise. Viasat made a study, interviewed about 20,000 people around the world, and the key finding was that even 97% of the people were seeing space as a threat and having impact to the climate change and then space debris. So industry has plenty of things to do to make public citizens to understand how they can benefit from space. United Nations has 17 sustainable development goals, and that is major opportunity for the space industry. It's a 12 trillion USD business opportunity for the industry. Today, you can see that at Sustainability Pavilion, there are some companies showing leadership and showing that they are expert with sustainability. I would have been greater to have even more companies showing the leadership with green carpet. I guess most of the companies have purple carpet still today. Funding, there's huge amount of funding available. So no reason to start saying that there's no funding available. Your customers or suppliers start asking about what you are doing with SGAs. 80% of the millennials are saying what your company is doing with sustainability. So if you want to get the best talents to work in your company, please remember sustainability. And STAs is not just a this week's story. It won't disappear anywhere, but it's also helping to fine-tune your business. Why sustainable space economy? What is the role of that? Our vision. Improve quality of life on Earth. So that's about the downstream services, equally to all of us on Earth. Utilizing space in sustainable way, no hazard chemicals, no space debris, so that's the upstream part. But even more important, persons who are not decision makers at the moment, we should be wise and make good decisions so that also our daughters and sons can benefit from space in the future. Leadership, that's one of the most valuable values in our case. We show leadership as a global, non-political, independent, and execution-focused social enterprise. Social enterprise means that we make certain things non-profit to increase awareness and so on, and then we offer business development services. So that's the execution part, which I was referring to already. So we want to show the leadership, awareness creation, and collaboration so the industry and the customers start understanding value of space. It's not there yet. Plenty of good things are happening, but we need to still improve in this side. When companies understand that they can benefit from space and it's a value added to the customer as well, they need to understand how to create the business, what type of things they need. They need funding, they need marketing, they need resources and so on. So we are there to help with that. We have just launched SSC membership platform today. So please visit our booth at A13 to know more about that, or visiting our website. So during the first 4 hours, more than 100 individual persons wanted to be part of this membership platform. So if you want to join that as well, please join. Welcome to collaborate and show leadership. If you haven't visited 813 yet, please get there. There are plenty of interesting companies to revisit. And the next one will be Fredrick Royan from Frost Sullivan. Applause to him.
Thanks, Timo. And yeah, so a quick introduction about myself. My name is Fredrick Royan, and I lead sustainability and circular economy practice. So I have just 5 minutes and 3 slides to talk about. So this one, we talk about the growth opportunities that we have when we talk about sustainability and circular economy. When we identify these growth opportunities, here we're looking at growth opportunities that have an opportunity for water, energy, and resource regeneration across cities and industry value chains with an interdependence on critical resources in an increasingly connected world. Most of the opportunities that we analyze in Frost & Sullivan are topics such as decarbonization of industries or net zero cities. We published a research looking at net zero cities, but also circular economy of waste to value. And when you're talking about space economy, we have a practice area for aerospace and defense. So I work with our team, which focuses on the satellite ecosystem, and then looking at the downstream applications of space when it comes to agriculture or water or power generation or even risk mitigation. And this is our dedicated space program. So we look at both the upstream side, which is more in terms of the satellite economy, but also some of these applications like geospatial services, satellite-based IoT or SATCOM services. The main point I wanted to talk about in this session is a new framework that we've launched. We call it the 6P framework. If people are familiar with sustainability development, they will be familiar with the 3P framework, which is the people, planet, and profit. It was a very linear framework. So we've come up with a 6P framework. And as Isabella was talking about, everything starts with policies. We have the CSRD or the green taxonomy, which is really shaping the design and development of key products and the focus on footprint and handprint of these products. And then the focus on processes. How do you map these workflows of water, waste, and energy and look at some of these synergies when you're looking at scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? The 4th P is people and personas. Another point that Isabella was talking about, understanding the expertise and training needs of people on the supply side, but also how do you capitalize on the personas when it comes to the demand side? the future generations of X, Y, and Z, and how they would be influencing the purchasing decisions going forward. The fifth is partnerships. Sustainability and circular economy cannot be solved in isolation. There's an excellent opportunity for companies to come together and participate in a B2B manner. And the sixth and the most important one is platforms. When policies are launched, it's with a goal to be achieved. How do you measure, monitor, and report on these policies? And the biggest point here is verification. Greenwashing has become a biggest topic. So the launch of ESG platforms and how these platforms can also support the trading within the circular economy. So going forward, this is going to be a circular framework where the data platforms will influence future policy development and targeting. Just wanted to sum it up with one use case. We published a report looking at net zero cities. A biggest challenge for cities is accurate data, how they can prepare their own climate action plans. Here we have seen some excellent role of satellite-based imaging as well as IoT-based sensors supporting cities with data for them to both implement their climate action plans but also secure climate finance. And I think one of the companies we'll be talking about in this session is Latitude 40 and some of the business case on that. So that's it from my side. Pass it on to the next speaker.
Thank you, Fredrick. And now the next one is Aurora Propulsion Technologies with two persons, chairman of the board and CEO. Thank you.
So hello everybody, I'm Roope Takala, I'm the chairman of the board for Aurora Propulsion Technologies, and I'm here with Perttu Yli-Opas, our CEO. So I'm a pretty simple engineer, and talking about sustainability gets a little bit abstract. So I thought that we should talk a little bit about what we understand is how do we implement sustainable space operations, what we've done, what to consider, and how to do it. We won't talk about everything, but the stuff that we've done, and hopefully you can get some ideas from that.
Yeah, so recently we've been working and just recently published the first version of a white paper on the topic of space sustainability. And for this white paper, we divided the topic into three different segments. There's a little bit of the system engineer approach to this, that we see two systems and then their interface, the launch and re-entry sustainability, as a separate topic. So looking at the division on the ground sustainability is all of the traditional corporate responsibility, traditional climate change and green economy that every single industry is working with, but also the downstream way of how the space industry enables the analytics and the insight about the field and what does the space industry contribute. Then the second topic here is the launch and re-entry sustainability, which is very specifically its own topic. It's the topic of how does the space launches impact sustainability as well as re-entry. Design for demise, for example, is very, very important topic where we ensure that no space debris falls all the way to Earth and can cause any problems, either safety issues, public safety issues, or, for example, debris in oceans type of issues. Then, of course, the third topic, which is more commonly discussed in these kind of settings, is the in-orbit sustainability, and which we also much focus on at Aurora, which is the impact of space debris, the sustainability of whether we can use the low Earth orbit in the future as well as, of course, impact on other planetary bodies. So basically, can we also access other planetary bodies in a sustainable way, which is of course a very large topic as well. So what we are looking at specifically at Aurora with launchers in the second category, the terminal stage deorbiting. So basically when you have a launch provider that has deployed satellites into orbit, and nowadays a lot of those space buses, the space tugs that take satellites to specific orbits, deorbiting of those vehicles. It's a very, very specific problem that we are tackling with our plasma brake solution. With large satellites, very similarly, deorbiting, but also with the dead man switch. So this means that with traditional thrusters deorbiting, the whole satellite needs to be fully functional when you are about to deorbit it. With plasma brake solution, we are aiming to do it fully independently, that the technology allows, where basically when the satellite has already failed, the plasma brake system will detect it and deploy itself. This allows you to actually operate the satellite for a longer time and deorbit it even after a failure on the satellite, which is absolutely crucial for sustainability. Also for small satellites, we are providing deorbit solutions as well as collision avoidance solutions, which 90% of CubeSats don't have at the moment. They don't have any way to react when they get a collision warning, as well as just the access to propulsion. Because let's be real, in CubeSats, many of the satellite projects from universities or somewhere is really practicing to build a satellite. Propulsion is something that is too complex for them to take on board, which results in them not being able to do that collision avoidance. So we make it simple enough that any satellite can actually implement propulsion on their satellite.
So taking it down a little more concrete, so what do we actually do? We do debris avoidance. Our product, collision avoidance engine in the bottom, is an example of that. We promote reuse and recycling of satellites. This is the most difficult part because the idea is to maintain the ability to orbit as long as possible, the ability to operate in orbit as long as possible, and hopefully in the future we also can upgrade satellites during their lifetimes, for instance by refueling them. This requires proximity operations, which is really difficult. And the final part, as Perttu mentioned, is deorbiting satellites with equipment such as our plasma brakes, a picture right here. But what we try to do is make these sustainability topics very concrete for the engineers. Instead of thinking design principles, you look, here's the component, put that into the product. This will take you to the next level.
So looking at the concrete problem of the deorbiting, so at the moment, this figure of 300,000 close call collision risks is from 2017. This has significantly increased from that. Just 2 weeks ago, there was a close call between an old Soviet satellite and an old NASA satellite, neither of which were operable and could do anything about the collision risk. They came within 16 meters of each other 2 weeks ago in orbit. If they had collided, the worst case scenario would have been a 50% increase in the amount of debris in low Earth orbit. This is hugely impactful. This is something that we cannot allow happen. The actual results of these problems are not felt immediately, but when we start feeling them, it is too late to do anything. So it is absolutely crucial that every satellite that is launched today is able to remove themselves, or we need to go there and remove them by active debris removal, which is obviously orders of magnitude more expensive than including the removal method on the satellite originally.
So this is the time when I get to compliment Isabella and her team. There's a lot of work being done on the regulation around space debris, space sustainability. Unfortunately, the US guys got ahead of us and they managed to get the FCC 5-year rule in place, but that means that every satellite must be deorbited 5 years after the end of its operations. Putting a rule like this in place is an engineerable action, and now we can actually do something about it. In Europe, we have the new space law, and then the Space Traffic Management Initiative that are pushing the ability to use propulsion, deorbiting satellites. And taking the level of sustainability up a lot more. Now, you might be wondering why I talk about regulation as an engineer, but it's important that we have a common platform to work from. We are trying to make products that are mass producible or at least large volume producible. We cannot do that if every single country in Europe has different rules. So if there's a baseline ruling, then we can make products in volume. It will push down the price. It will increase the ability for the industry to move forward. So the consistency in the regulation is paramount to success. The next step after this will be when we have the European regulation in place, the US has theirs, is to barter between the two so that when we sell, for instance, products to the US, it's sufficient that we comply with the European regulation and that is accepted by the US counterparts and vice versa. This gives us a larger market, which of course is also important for the growth of this industry. We like space maneuverability, collision avoidance, and deorbiting. Evidently, those are our products. But there are other topics in the laws as well. And one more thing is on the left is sustainability rating. I think that would be a very good topic to start looking at the industry in general, not just the hardware people like us, but also the software teams. And so it allows us to compare companies in terms of investment.
And just as a final word, the problem is not about the amount of objects in low Earth orbit. There's plenty of space in low Earth orbit if we keep the satellites operational, able to avoid collisions and remove them at the end of life. The actual capacity of low Earth orbit is not a problem. However, we just need to solve the problems in advance and we can launch all the satellites we will ever need. Thank you.
Please read more about this from our white paper on our website. It's right there. All the regulation synopses should be there as well.
Thank you, Aurora's team. Just to mention that all these speaks will be recorded and these are visible and readable at sustainablespaceeconomy.com in a week's time. Then speaker from different angle, Latitudo 40.
Thank you. So, thank you very much. I'm Francesco Amato, Business Development Manager of Latitudo 40. And I want to start with a phrase that we hear very often in this period. There is no planet B. Yes, we know, but we can do something. And we do not forget that we live in an increasingly complex and volatile world, being prepared for tomorrow's urban sustainability challenge requires a new way to look. Why it's so important to talk about the sustainability of urban areas? Our cities are on the front line of climate change. How can we design them to be more resilient and sustainable? 4 points. Cities need data for sustainability choice with environmental preservation, biodiversity, sustainable development practice, inclusive living environment, and climate change resilient. To overcome these challenges, data must be global, detailed, up-to-date, accessible, and reliable. Only in this case, they provide a real contribution to ambitious vision oriented towards sustainability. We must empowering sustainability, remote sensing, and AI, continuing acquisition everywhere in the world to have actionable insight based on power AI-driven algorithms. This is our solution. The solution is of Latitude 40 is divided in three main phases. Data from the space, Latitude 40 artificial intelligence, and Earth actionable insight and simulation that designed to ensure that decision makers can grasp and act quickly on our insights. Two channels to distribute the data. Urbalytics is our SaaS platform for cities and urban planners. Earth Dataplace is our marketplace for the digital dataset. We are able to transform a Copernicus Sentinel-2 with a spatial resolution from 10 meters, we scale into 1 meter. This for have a fully automated platform and capturing the intricate details of cities and place with a very high level of detail from the past to the present. A unique tool for tracking change in time and gaining in-depth knowledge of the place. This is our insights. Identify patterns, urban in Thailand, risk for citizens, etc. Predict the future risk, data-driven decision, and validate the outcome of mitigation action with environmental KPIs. So, we are not a magician, but somehow we are able to see also the future. We are able to predict the future with our urban simulator tool. 3 steps: new city design, synthetic multispectral data by generative AI, and analysis of the simulated scenario. By identifying high-risk areas, cities can implement targeted mitigation action, turning vulnerable zone into resilient space. So, our value proposition: informed decision making and optimal resources allocated, cost saving to get the information cities need, performance tracking to track the performance of sustainability initiatives over time, attracting investment from green finance as well as from national and international bodies, regulatory compliance, meet national or international regulation, community and stakeholder engagement data as a common ground for collaboration. We are so proud to help 15 million of citizens around the world. We work with many municipalities like Zaragoza, Barcelona, Milano, Naples, Vilnius, and we work also in the IRIDE program and with the Statistics Canada for the Canada, and also with many projects like a sustainability project for Autostrade per l'Italia, the company of the Italian highway, for the vegetation management. This is our team. It's full of great mind, scientists, technologists, creatives. They work together for the same goal, a thriving planet. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Latitudo 40. At Sustainable Space Economy, we believe in diversity. We want to see men, women, old and young people. We want to have different type of presenters from the whole space ecosystem. Now we move to the next view. Serco, please.
Thank you, Timo. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to introduce you to Serco. I'm Alexis Longuet. I'm doing business development at Serco in space, focused in space for more than 2 years now. Serco is a large multinational. We have more than 50,000 staff employees worldwide. And in Europe, we have 2,000 people dedicated to space. These activities, however, it's important to understand how do they impact sustainability, how do they thrive for a more sustainable planet, and how does Serco capabilities have this impact. The first pillar, enabling us to really have an impact for a better future, that we are supporting space missions for more than 40 years, European space missions with our customers, the European Commission through the Copernicus program, European Space Agency, and also EUMETSAT. We are supporting space missions in very different ways, from upstream to downstream. So we'll start from the most upstream, supporting the mission from their design, from their definition, and through project management, engineering expertise. We have teams working, deployed with our customers, within our customer premises, supporting the definition of the next missions and having a concrete impact. Earth observation missions are critical to better understand our planet and take action, protect our planet, and adapt to climate change, for example. We believe that through the large activity that we have in Earth observation, we are having a real impact. Concretely, we support the Copernicus program Sentinel satellites through spacecraft operation. We maneuver from the launch, we monitor the spacecraft maneuvers in orbit in order to make sure that we do not eat debris. It's a very important topic, and even more when we are talking about large satellites that are delivering critical data and information on Earth. We do not only operate spacecraft, we also process the data, control the quality of the data that are delivered by these satellites, by this spacecraft. Then the second pillar, the second way we impact a sustainable future is through maximizing the impact of these critical scientific missions in space, enabling the exploitation of the data produced by these missions. Once we have sent a satellite in orbit, we have to maximize the return on investment from this satellite. We do not send satellites just for fun. We want them to have a real impact on Earth, and making sure that the data that is produced by these satellites is exploited by the largest audience, from policymakers, decision makers, scientific community, research community, to citizens. That's what we have done on Copernicus, with the Copernicus data for more than 10 years, enabling citizens to access, and of course scientists to access the Copernicus data, having a real concrete impact on Earth. We will also support the biomass mission with the payload data ground segment, which is a critical mission enabling us to get further in our understanding on the forest, the biomass coming from the forest, but also the lack of captation of carbon dioxide when we have deforestation. So we will, for the first time, be able to measure concretely the impact on the biomass of these forests. Finally, the third pillar, moving from big data to key insights and actionable insights for policymakers. Serco is supporting decision makers through tools and services. But in particular, I would like here to emphasize the upcoming role, it's already ongoing, but upcoming role from Serco on a key initiative from the European Commission, which is called Destination Earth. Some of you may be familiar with this initiative that aims to create a digital model of the planet. In fact, many digital models of the planet in line with the Green Deal and digital strategy objectives of the European Commission, enabling us to better understand the planet, not only as it is, but as it could be, anticipating different scenarios. So we are talking about the development of two first digital twins handled by ECMWF. The first one being on climate change adaptation and the second one being extreme events. These two first digital twins will be critical for understanding of the risk that will be coming in the coming years. All the data that is produced by this digital twin and the digital twin engine by ECMWF will be stored on the data lake that is handled under the supervision of EUMETSAT, another European agency. And Serco is developing the core service platform, the Destiny platform that will enable users to access not only the data that is stored on the data lake, but also services and create a real ecosystem of services. We've heard today impactful startups that have services that would be really empowering decision makers to take actions for climate based on evidence. And we invite all the stakeholders that could contribute to a better future to join the platform in the coming months. It's going to be launched in June, but there are already open calls, either through the European Space Agency or ECMWF. And you can already join to increase the impact that this platform will make and really improve your impact, increase your impact for a better future in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Serco. And like I said, we love diversity. Now, another angle to sustainability. Rosie, please.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Yes, I can use the technology. Hopefully you can hear me as well. So hi everyone, I'm Rosie. I'm here from Space Wales to represent a country of about 3 million people and things that we're doing in our space sector to help to promote sustainability and lessons learned for how companies can work together to promote sustainability as well. So a quick introduction. Hello. Yes, sorry, I broke the microphone. We act as the trade association for the space industry across Wales. So we are the voice of the universities and the companies across the country. We work closely with the Welsh Government and the UK Space Agency. And in 2021, we released our space strategy, Wales, a Sustainable Space Nation, which really focuses on how we can align with the Welsh Government's ambitions of becoming net zero by 2040. And how we can support that as a space industry as a whole. But when you're talking about a sustainable space nation, you need to be able to define sustainability, and that's a very tricky topic. Fred covered it with the UN, different definitions of how you can link to the definition for sustainability. But we've tried to reduce this by linking it into two areas: how you can relate sustainability to the environment, and also how you can relate it to business. So in doing that, some things to become a sustainable space nation to think about from the environmental perspective are a pathway to net zero. So what things you need to bear in mind to reduce carbon emissions in the space industry, things such as propulsion fuels that are used, using Earth observation to monitor the environment back down on Earth. Another thing to think about is cross-sector collaborations with the environment. So how can satellite data help to benefit life in other sectors as well? And policy making, which I'll come back to in a moment and has been touched on already too. And from the business perspective, thinking about supply chain, how do you keep a sustainable supply chain across a nation? Thinking of skills, how you make sure that you have those skills to maintain that space sector. And raising awareness to make sure people are aware in the industry, but also people who in the future might be going into jobs in that industry. So in terms of policy making, there are things that a nation can do to make a change. And these are some examples from Wales of some things that have been done. So first is sustainability written into government legislation. So we have an Environment Wales Act, which is something that the aerospace and space industries have both had a contribution towards. We've also made sure to work towards a low carbon emission future and looking at renewable energy strategies and zero waste strategies as well. We have a Minister for Climate Change in Wales, which making sure that the emissions from the space sector are low is highly important. And also looking after future generations. So Wales was the first country in the world to employ a Future Generations Minister as part of the Future Generations Act to make sure that we are looking after the well-being of the next generation and the future going forward as well. And then thinking about business, one of the things that we've done as a starting point is to map out where all of the different companies and organisations across Wales fall into different sectors that are key to the industry across the nation. So we've got just over 85 organisations with just over 1,600 employees. And these are linked to different areas such as advanced materials, defence, optics and photonics, and tourism to make sure we are tying this into a circular economy and the key areas across the nation as well. So why am I sharing this? Well, not to boast about what Wales is doing, but really to talk about how we can work together as nations to start to think about sustainability as a whole, how companies, universities, any organisation can come together to really put this together and work as a collaborative effort to put forward sustainability across Europe and across the world as well. So a massive thank you to Timo, Fred and everyone on the Sustainability Pavilion because it's a fantastic opportunity to be here and promote this with all of you at the event. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. We haven't reserved time for Q&A here at the arena, but next 60 minutes or 2 hours, please come and visit Pavilion A13 and you can ask all the questions which you have in your mind. Thank you.